Everyone's talking about how expensive America has gotten, and they're right. The national median home price is sitting above $400,000. Rents in most major metros haven't come back down, and the cities people used to escape to, Austin, Nashville, Boise, those are expensive now too, so where do you actually go? I've been deep in the data on South Carolina for a while now, and I kept finding the same thing over and over. Cities that nobody outside the state has heard of, with home prices that look like typos and quality of life that would genuinely surprise you. Not dump towns, not forgotten places where the price is low because everything else fell apart. Real communities with real jobs, real downtowns, real schools, and houses that a normal person with a normal income can actually afford to buy. 10 of them. I ranked them, I researched every single one, and I'm going to tell you exactly what the numbers say, who each place is actually right for, and where the catches are, because there are always catches, and I'd rather you hear them from me than find out after you've signed the paperwork. This is the South Carolina nobody is putting on a magazine cover, and it might be exactly what you've been looking for. Sumter, population around 43,000. Median home price around $200,000. Average rent for a one-bedroom, $940 a month. Let that land for a second. Under $1,000 a month for a one-bedroom apartment in a city of 43,000 people. Sumter sits about 45 miles east of Columbia, right in the center of the state, and it's consistently ranked by Redfin as one of the most affordable places to live in all of South Carolina, about $180,000 below the state's median home sale price. That's not a rounding error. That's a completely different financial situation, but here's what makes Sumter stand out versus just being cheap. The town actually has stuff. Swan Lake Iris Gardens, which is genuinely one of the more stunning public parks in the Southeast, sits right in the middle of the city, free to visit. Patriot Park gives you outdoor recreation and sports facilities. There's a Sumter Speedway if you're into that. The Sumter Museum is housed in a gorgeous Edwardian building from 1916. This isn't a ghost town trying to play dead. It's a functioning community with character. Shaw Air Force Base is a major employer here, and it stabilizes the economy in a way a lot of comparably sized towns don't have. You've got a consistent population of military families who need housing, schools, and services, which means those things get funded and maintained. That's not nothing. The downtown is small, but functional. Healthcare access is reasonable, and you're a 45-minute drive from Columbia if you want something more urban. A Trader Joe's, a bigger concert venue, whatever. Who should consider Sumter? First-time buyers, remote workers, military families, anyone who wants a real house in a real town without going broke in the process. If you've been doing the math on home ownership and the numbers never quite work, Sumter is the kind of place that changes that math completely. The honest caveat, the job market outside of the base and healthcare is a little thin. If you're job hunting locally, research your specific field first. But for remote workers, this place is a cheat code. Florence is in the northeastern part of South Carolina, about 70 miles from Myrtle Beach, sitting at the crossroads of I-95 and I-20, population around 40,000, median home sale price around $219,000, one-bedroom apartments averaging $1,035 a month. And here's something that almost never gets said about Florence. It has a real job market, not just agriculture, not just retail. Florence is a regional healthcare hub. McLeod Regional Medical Center is one of the biggest employers in the region. Francis Marion University is here. The city has been recognized as a top workplace destination in South Carolina, which is not a label a lot of small cities with $219,000 median home prices can claim. The downtown has actual things in it. The Florence County Museum is a solid cultural institution. Florence Little Theater has been running live performances for decades. Timrod Park has 14 tennis courts, a playground, and miles of walking trails. The Florence Rail Trail gives you 5 miles of paved path for cycling and running. And Jeffries Creek Park, 55 acres of trails and picnic areas right inside the city limits. For a city under 45,000 people with median home prices around $220,000, that's a lot of infrastructure, and the food scene is growing. This is still South Carolina, which means the barbecue is not a joke. And the South Carolina Pecan Festival draws the region together every year in a way that reminds you there's actually a community here. The things you should know going in: public transportation is minimal. You need a car. Some neighborhoods near the PD River can see flooding during heavy rain events, and like a lot of mid-sized southern cities, you want to pick your neighborhood carefully. The city has pockets of higher property crime in certain areas, but the overall package, affordable homes, a real job market, good outdoor access, reasonable drive to the beach, makes Florence one of the more underrated cities in this entire state. Young professionals especially should be paying attention here. This one has a case for being the single most affordable city in South Carolina, depending on which data set you use. Median home price around $123,000 to $258,000 depending on the source. That range reflects both the older housing stock and some of the newer construction. Cost of living about 11% below the national average. Greenwood is in the northwest part of the state, about an hour from Greenville and an hour from Columbia. And the reason it works as more than just a cheap place is the combination of things it has going for it simultaneously. Start with Lander University, a public university right inside the city. That gives Greenwood a college town energy that most towns this size and price point don't have. It means arts events, performances, a younger population, faculty who want good restaurants, and an institution that keeps the economy from bottoming out. Then there's self-regional healthcare, a respected regional hospital. It's one of the largest employers in the area. Healthcare is a stable economic anchor. Add in manufacturing jobs, textiles, automotive parts, pharmaceuticals, and you have a more diversified economy than most comparable small cities. Then there's Lake Greenwood State Park, boating, fishing, hiking, camping. Right there. The annual South Carolina Festival of Flowers is one of the bigger community events in the Upstate, and the Emerald Triangle downtown has galleries, restaurants, and a cultural life that punches above its weight for a city this size. The Arts Center of Greenwood hosts national and state artists year-round. One resident who moved from a larger city wrote on Niche that Greenwood is a sweet little college town. The commute is only 10 minutes, most stores are 5 to 10 minutes away, and if we're craving something specific, Greenville is only an hour away. That's a pretty solid summary. The honest picture? Crime rates have some concerns in certain neighborhoods, and the city is still working through some economic challenges. But for families looking for an affordable, livable community with real amenities and a university in the mix, Greenwood is a serious option. Population around 10,000, median home price around $115,000 to $168,000 depending on neighborhood. Renting a two-bedroom runs about $880 a month, roughly 38% below the national average. Newberry sits on I-26, directly between Columbia and Greenville. 45 minutes to the state capital, about an hour to Greenville, hour and a half to Charlotte. So you're not isolated, you're actually positioned right between three significant economic centers. And Newberry has something most towns its size don't have, genuine charm that's been recognized externally. Both the Travel Channel and HGTV have named Newberry one of America's most charming small towns. Hallmark filmed a Christmas movie in Newberry's downtown. That's not a marketing gimmick, that's a real signal that the place has something visually and culturally appealing. The Newberry Opera House has been anchoring the downtown for over 100 years and is on the National Register of Historic Places. It hosts dozens of performances every year. Musicals, rock concerts, beach music, operas, the Newberry Arts Center, the Innery River Winery with tastings and vineyard tours, the Wells Japanese Garden, a real Oktoberfest. The downtown has that rare quality of being both authentic and actually nice to walk through. One review I came across from a nearby resident put it perfectly. It's a thriving historic district halfway between Columbia and Greenville. Newberry has one of the most charming downtowns in South Carolina, top-notch restaurants, an opera house that always has a show booked, a winery, mid-Carolina schools that are on par with the top-ranked schools in the state. If you're considering a move to SC, but aren't sure where, you should check out this little gem. That's not a paid ad. That's a real person who discovered Newberry and was kind of stunned by it. The caveats are real. It's a small city, the job market is limited to manufacturing, agriculture, and healthcare locally, and amenity scores are low if you're measuring by the number of big box stores. But if your work is remote, or you're willing to commute to Columbia or Greenville a few days a week, Newberry might be the best value hiding in plain sight in this entire state. Lawrence, population around 9,000. Cost of living index of 83, one of the lowest in the state. Median home price around $100,000 to $39,800 to $267,000 depending on the data source and neighborhood. Median rent are around $795 a month. Florence markets itself as the gateway to the Upstate, and that geography matters. You're 45 minutes from Greenville. You're 45 minutes from Spartanburg, close enough to commute into a real economic hub, far enough away that you're buying at small-town prices. The downtown has something worth visiting. The historic district is anchored by an actual town square, and there's an artist's coop that's become a real focal point for local creative community. The 1907 Opera House, Lake Rabon Park for fishing and boating, and Musgrove Mill State Historic Site, the Revolutionary War battlefield, give the city a sense of history and identity. Prisma Health, Lawrence County Hospital, handles healthcare needs. The community events are consistent. The Riverfront Freedom Festival, farmers markets, and local arts programming keep things active for the size of the place. For retirees especially, it's been flagged by multiple sources as one of the most cost-effective places in the state to actually settle down. Now, Lawrence is genuinely small. If you're used to urban density, you're going to need to recalibrate your expectations. Dining options are limited. Shopping requires driving to Greenville or Spartanburg. The job market locally is thin outside of healthcare and some manufacturing, but the value proposition is hard to argue with. If you've got remote income or you're willing to drive 45 minutes for work a few days a week, you can own a home in Lawrence and have a monthly payment that would make your friends in bigger cities physically uncomfortable with jealousy. That's the pitch, and it's a real one. Spartanburg has about 40,000 people in the city proper, but the metro area is much larger, and it's become one of the most talked about affordable cities in the Southeast for good reason. Median home prices sit nearly $150,000 below the national median, according to Redfin, who ranks Spartanburg among the best places to live in all of South Carolina, not just the cheapest. That distinction matters. This isn't just affordable. It's affordable with real quality of life attached. The downtown is the headline. Morgan Square is where most of the energy lives. Restaurants, museums, 18th century buildings that have been renovated into vibrant spaces. The Hub City Farmers Market, the Hub City Brewfest, Sparkle City Mini Putt, which is actually free. Croft State Park, just south of downtown, gives you 12 miles of trails across 7,000 acres of woodland. The economy is anchored by BMW, yes, the car company, whose North American manufacturing headquarters is right outside the city. That brings supply chain jobs, engineering roles, and a professional workforce that wants good restaurants, coffee shops, and outdoor recreation, which is exactly what Spartanburg has been building. The city has multiple colleges and universities. The art scene has grown significantly, and the Blue Ridge Mountains are close enough for real hiking. Redfin calls it the fourth best place to live in South Carolina overall, with home prices well below the national median and a downtown that's legitimately worth spending a Saturday afternoon in. Spartanburg is one of the best-kept secrets in the entire state. The only real knock? If you're not connected to BMW or the healthcare and education sectors, the job market can feel a little limited. And like everywhere in the Piedmont, there are neighborhoods you want to research more carefully before committing. But if you're looking for a southern city with genuine character, real outdoor access, a functioning economy, and home prices that feel like they're from another decade, Spartanburg belongs on your list. Aiken is a different kind of affordable. The price range is a bit higher. Median homes running around $288,000 to $320,000 depending on the neighborhood, but the context changes everything. Aiken sits right on the Georgia border, about 17 miles north of Augusta, and Augusta, Georgia is not a small town. Augusta National Golf Club, home of the Masters, is right across the state line. The Augusta Metro is a real economic engine, and Aiken residents access it constantly. But what makes Aiken genuinely unique in the state is the identity of the place. It has a level of polish and historic character that most comparably priced cities in South Carolina don't come close to. Downtown Aiken is legitimately beautiful. Wide streets, historic homes, horse culture that's been embedded in the city for over a century. Aiken is famous in equestrian circles. The Aiken Triple Crown is an annual tradition. Polo, steeplechase, thoroughbred training. This stuff is real and active. The Hitchcock Woods, one of the largest urban forests in the United States at 2,100 acres, sits right inside the city and is free to access. You can ride horses and through it. Woodside Plantation and Hounds Lake are quality neighborhoods that offer homes on quiet, well-maintained streets at prices that would be unthinkable in comparable communities further up the eastern seaboard. Healthcare is strong. Augusta University Medical Center is just across the border. Schools are solid. The vibe is southern, but with a layer of refinement that draws a lot of people from the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic who want warmth, space, and affordability without feeling like they've moved to the middle of nowhere. At around $288,000 for a median home, it's not the cheapest city on this list, but it might be the one with the highest overall quality of life relative to cost. Retirees keep landing here and staying. And honestly, once you drive through downtown Aiken on a Saturday morning and see the horses and the historic facades and the prices on the real estate signs, you start to understand why. Conway. And here's where people start paying attention, because Conway has a specific pitch that's almost impossible to argue with. 15 miles from Myrtle Beach, median home prices around $285,000, cost of living about 14% below the national average, and a downtown that's actually worth living near. Conway is the oldest city in Horry County and is one of the most historically significant towns in the state. Established in 1732, the downtown along the Waccamaw River is lined with ancient live oak trees that the city actively protects through a tree ordinance. Moss-draped oaks, preserved architecture, brick sidewalks, antique shops, local restaurants, a live theater on Main Street. If you've been searching for a southern town that actually looks like what you pictured when someone said South Carolina, Conway is probably it. The Conway Riverwalk takes you along the waterfront. Conway City Marina and Riverfront Park let you rent kayaks and canoes. The Christmas Boat Parade, the Riverfest. Coastal Carolina University sits right there, giving the city an educational anchor and a cultural calendar. Horry Georgetown Technical College is nearby too. And then 15 minutes south is Myrtle Beach. Full tourist beach access whenever you want it. But you don't pay Myrtle Beach prices. You don't deal with Myrtle Beach traffic on your daily commute. You're removed from the peak summer chaos, but close enough to access everything. One long-term resident described it plainly. You can get to North Myrtle Beach by going north, Surfside Beach to the south, take the back roads to avoid 501 when it's backed up, and get around the coast without fighting tourist traffic. You have beach access without beach pricing. That's the deal. The things to be aware of: the job market within Conway itself isn't massive. Healthcare, education, and retail are the main drivers. The summers are hot and humid, and there's no getting around that in any part of coastal South Carolina. And the recent growth, Conway has been absorbing a lot of people who've been priced out of Myrtle Beach, means traffic on 501 and 544 has gotten real. But as a place to live, Conway is one of the most complete packages at an affordable price point in this entire state. If you're a family, a retiree, or a remote worker who wants charm, history, and the beach 20 minutes away, this is your city. Number 2. Columbia. Population around 147,000. Median home value around $264,000 to $273,000. Average rent for a one-bedroom around $1,021 to $1,125. An average commute time of 16 minutes. Columbia is the state capital and the second most populous city in South Carolina. And when you look at the combination of what it offers and what it costs, it becomes genuinely hard to explain why it doesn't get more attention from people doing relocation research. Let's start with the economy. The University of South Carolina, the State of South Carolina, Prisma Health, Fort Jackson, and Blue Cross Blue Shield are all major anchors. This is a city with a diversified, stable job market across government, healthcare, education, and insurance. That's not a fragile economy, that's a resilient one. Then there's what you can actually do here. The Columbia Museum of Art, Riverbanks Zoo and Garden, one of the top-rated zoos in the Southeast. The revitalized Main Street with real restaurants and nightlife. Congaree National Park, just 20 miles southeast. Old-growth forest, canoeing, hiking. Segra Park, where the minor league Columbia Fireflies play. USC Gamecocks football, which is not a small thing in South Carolina. Lake Murray, about 20 minutes west, for boating and waterfront life. Downtown Columbia has been reinvented over the last decade. It earned the nickname Soda City from its famous Saturday Farmers Market on Main Street, the largest farmers market in South Carolina. The art scene has grown. The food scene has grown. The city has invested in parks, trails, and the canal path along the Conway River. And U.S. News ranked Columbia the #6 best place to live in South Carolina. Not the 6th cheapest, the 6th best. At a median home price of $264,000 to $273,000. That's a remarkable combination. Now, Columbia summers are brutal. When people say South Carolina is humid, they usually mean Columbia specifically. It is relentless from June through September. And the city has real crime disparities between neighborhoods. So research matters a lot before you pick where to land. But for anyone relocating for work, for families who want a real city with real opportunities at a real price, Columbia belongs near the top of any South Carolina list. It's not a consolation prize for people who can't afford Charleston. It's a genuinely strong city that happens to be affordable, and that combination is increasingly rare. Number 1, Rock Hill. And I know some of you are going to push back on this one because Rock Hill has a median home price of about $302,000 to $322,000, which is higher than several other cities on this list. But I need you to think about this differently. Rock Hill has a population of around 75,000 to 79,000 people. It sits 25 miles south of Charlotte, North Carolina. 25 miles. Charlotte is one of the fastest growing major cities in the United States. It's a financial hub, a healthcare hub, a tech hub. Median home values in Charlotte are well over $400,000, and the surrounding suburbs, Fort Mill, Ballantyne, Pineville, are pushing $450,000 to $550,000 for comparable properties. Rock Hill is across the state line, 25 miles away, in South Carolina. And South Carolina's property tax rates are among the lowest in the country, about 0.57% compared to the national average of 1.07%. Social Security income isn't taxed for residents over 65. The overall cost of living is below national average. U.S. News ranks Rock Hill the 5th best place to live in all of South Carolina. Average commute time is 20 minutes, meaning the commute to Charlotte is real but manageable, especially with remote work shifting the equation. The city itself is not a suburb that just exists to funnel people to Charlotte. It has its own character. Glencairn Garden is a legitimate destination, a stunning botanical garden that's free to the public. Winthrop University gives the city a college-town energy and arts programming. The Rock Hill Downtown Historic District is undergoing real investment. New restaurants, small businesses, the kind of revitalization that signals momentum. Cherry Park and Winthrop Lake give you outdoor access. The Museum of York County is one of the better natural history museums in the state. The schools in the area, particularly some of the suburban neighborhoods in York County, are well regarded. That's not a minor thing for families. And here's the core math. You can buy a 2,000 square foot house in Rock Hill for $320,000. The equivalent house in Charlotte proper costs $450,000 to $500,000. The equivalent house in Fort Mill, which is between Rock Hill and Charlotte, is going to run you $420,000 to $480,000. Rock Hill gives you Charlotte access at a meaningful discount, in a state with lower taxes, in a city that has its own real identity. For anyone working in Charlotte who's been priced out of the North Carolina suburbs, for families who want excellent school access and outdoor life without breaking the budget, for remote workers who want proximity to a major metro without paying metro prices. Rock Hill is the answer. It's not the cheapest city on this list. It's the one with the best combination of affordability and access to opportunity. And in 2026, that's the kind of value that matters. 10 cities, 3 of them are small towns where $150,000 buys you a real house and a real community. A few are mid-sized cities where the economy is stable and the quality of life is genuinely solid. And one is a Charlotte suburb, where the math flips the whole conversation. South Carolina is one of the most underrated states for relocation right now. The weather is real. The summers are hot and humid, and you need to accept that. Certain neighborhoods in every city on this list have crime issues you should research before you commit. And some of these places require you to drive a lot more than you might be used to, because transit infrastructure isn't the priority out here. But if you want to actually own a home, if you want space, if you want Southern hospitality and real community in a state where your dollar still means something, these 10 cities are where you start looking. If you found this useful, hit subscribe. Drop in the comments which city surprised you the most, or which one you're already looking at. And if you want a deep dive on any single city from this list, let me know and we'll do the full breakdown. We'll see you in the next one.